Today I'm making some mini nut corners, a perfect Christmas snack. Let's start with the dough. First I mix sugar with butter, soft butter ideally. My butter isn't really soft and I don't have a mixer, so I'm trying to make it work with a whisk. Let's just say it's not going great, but I'm committed to this battle. Next I crack in an egg and mix it in. Well, as much as I can. Of course the egg was cold, so now the butter is even firmer and keeps getting stuck in my whisk. But after some effort it's finally kind of mixed. I think the idea is to mix the egg and butter first so the flour doesn't just clump onto the egg. Or maybe that's just science I don't fully get, I'm just following a recipe here. Then I throw in a pinch of salt before adding the flour. I mix it all together until it forms a crumbly texture and then I knead it into a ball with my hands. Once it looks like proper dough, I wrap it in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge for an hour. In the meantime I'm taking care of the nut layer. For this I melt some butter in a small pot and add sugar. I went with brown sugar, but honestly I've never been able to taste the difference between brown and white sugar. Then I toss in some vanilla sugar because vanilla always works with sweet stuff, and let everything simmer until the sugar is dissolved. Once the sugar is melted, I add my sliced almonds and a generous squeeze of honey, mixing it all together well. After that I stir in some hazelnut meal before setting it aside. Honestly, you can use whatever nuts you have on hand, but I'm stuck with these because they're the only ones my girlfriend isn't allergic to. After my dough has chilled for an hour in the fridge, I start spreading it out on my baking sheet. I'm using my hands because unfortunately I don't own a fancy mini rolling pin. I thought this would be much easier, to be honest. Out of desperation I tried using a glass as a rolling pin, but the dough just stuck to it, so I had to finish it off by hand. After what felt like an eternity, I finally got it done and poked a bunch of holes in it to prevent bubbles while it bakes. It probably didn't need that many holes. Then I pre-baked the base for 5 to 10 minutes to firm it up a little. After pre-baking, I spread apricot jam over the base. Pre-baking makes this part less messy because without it, it would be a sticky chaos. Spreading the jam feels surprisingly relaxing after the struggle of dealing with the dough. Next I grab my nut mixture and spread it evenly over the base. The mixture had hardened a bit from cooling, so I had to warm it up again. Spreading it wasn't the easiest task either, since I didn't want to push the jam around too much, but I did my best. After pressing everything down nicely, I bake it all for another 15 to 20 minutes until golden brown. Once it's done, I let everything cool completely before cutting it. To speed up the cooling, I take advantage of Germany's freezing weather and put the tray out on the balcony for 20 minutes. After it has cooled, I cut it into small rectangles first, then diagonally into triangles. Cooling is super important because it helps everything stick together, making it easier to cut neatly. You can find nut corners in German bakeries all year round, so they're not really a Christmas thing. And no, Nut November is over, and I think December is the perfect time for them. Traditionally, nut corners are usually bigger, but I wanted these to be snack sized. Now it's time for the chocolate. I melt some chocolate like a pro using a water bath and dip the edges of the triangles in. Getting the chocolate evenly on the edges isn't easy, but after a few corners I've learned that new skill. I only did half of the batch at first because my tray was full and honestly it was late and I'd lost my motivation. I put the nut corners back out on the cold balcony to set the chocolate quickly, and then I finally got to taste them. I'll admit I was a little skeptical about the jam, but the combination is amazing. Fast forward to the next day, I already snacked most of the nut corners and I need to finish what I started. I thought they'd be even better if they were smaller, so I cut them diagonally in half again. Sure, that means more work with dipping the edges in chocolate, but I've got practice now. After what felt like another eternity, I'm finally done. Thanks for watching and enjoy your mini nut corners.